Hey, what's up, guys? John here. Are you looking at Target and Budweiser and these large corporations going extremely woke, wondering what the hell they're doing? Why would they alienate 50 or 75% of their entire audience to push forward an ideology that their customer base might not agree with? What do they have to benefit? How does this benefit them and how do they gain? Well, looking at what's going on with these large corporations and looking at what's going on with office buildings, vacant office buildings, and looking at what's going on with this inflation conversation, all of this connects. And it connects and it points directly to ESG. I did a lot of research for you to show you what the future is going to look like through the White House and through all these new changes and laws that are coming forward. And I'm going to share it with you today because I think it's going to change the way in which you look at almost everything. Please hit the like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube is going to share this content to educate more people. And if you want to fix your credit, we'd love to help you. We'd love to give you a free consultation at greatcreditfast.com. That's greatcreditfast.com. I believe the next 3 years are going to be a hell of a lot harder than the past 3 years. And if you want to position yourself for success and you right now are kind of struggling, maybe you have record high credit card debt or you're in a bad situation, but your credit is bad. If you fix your credit, you're going to increase the likelihood that you're going to be able to get financing and, walk into success, find success easier. So we'd love to give you a free consultation, see how we can help you. Take a look at this. So the climate crisis will be a mother of all financial crises. They said the inflationary spiral that we're living through was triggered by oil companies. Oil companies, they say, are the ones that triggered this inflationary crisis, and they use their monopoly over the energy system to offset their falling profits during lockdowns. Now, think about this. It's not the fact that we're in that situation overseas. It's not the fact that we're shutting down pipelines or restricting our access to it. It has nothing to do with that. It's because of our dependencies on these corporations, and these corporations are extracting the wealth from everyday Americans, and they're the ones to blame, so they say, right? Now, you look at whitehouse.gov. Remember, this came out. This is their action plan, their task force, right? Their task force says that they want to reduce U.S. greenhouse gas emissions 50 to 52% below 2005 levels in the next 6.5 years, reaching 100% carbon pollution-free electricity in the next 11.5 years, achieving net zero by 2050, delivering 40% of benefits from federal investments in climate and energy and disadvantaged communities. Now, this goes much further than that. This is also, I'll leave the link to this below, but this goes even towards like power sector, transportation, building sector. They talk about expanding programs to help families weatherize their homes. This is going to start, these energy upgrades are going to start coming to your properties because they're going to start to increase the cost for electric and gas stoves and all these different things for you to be able to utilize these, and they're going to switch it to electric. This is what's happening. And so you say, well, what does this have to do with office buildings? What does this have to do with Target, Walmart? How does this make any sense, John? Well, they say this comes after decades of hooking up the economy on fossil fuels and an absolute alliance with the political mainstream, with the complacency, and sometimes even an agreement of green and left-wing parties. All agreements have been torn up by now, only bipartisanship remains. However, on top of the assault produced by the imposition of unparalleled high prices and imbalance beyond the control of capitalist elite have begun to manifest themselves. Now, scroll down here. It says to fight inflation, central banks and battalions of economics trained in the schools of suicidal capitalism chose to do what they have learned: raise interest rates and take money out of the economy and make it squeeze. Everyone who had a loan saw the value of their loan increase, while the prices of all goods increased too. Many companies that had loans, everyone, therefore, also saw their operating costs increase, which will increase wage compression and eventually leading to layoffs and in some cases bankruptcies. Talk about Silicon Valley Bank, resulting in rising interest rates because it was a bank that specialized in debt with a large amount of invested in long-term U.S. government treasury bonds, considered probably the safest investment in the world. But they say here, global insurance premiums are on the rise because of the risk moving from being risk to certainty. The banking industry's close relationship with the insurance sector ensures that every climate catastrophe is also a financial crisis, and considering that risk is becoming or approaching a certainty in many cases, more and more issuers are refusing to insure investments, including projects, construction in danger zones, crops and flooding and drought risk, and even general insurance on buildings, transport, and other areas. They refuse because their business is to make a profit, and because their previous distribution of risk is no longer the case and is only confirmed. All are much more dangerous And the risk of major climate catastrophes is widespread. Even when issuers don't refuse to do the insurance, they increase premiums, and therefore both people and businesses are paying more to have insurance. If you considered an area like flood-prone Pakistan or the state of California, one of the most important agricultural areas in the United States, whose annual fires are now permanently devastating vast areas, and even cities which insurance companies will ever be able to insure the damage caused? None. I'm going to leave this in the show notes, but basically what they're saying here is they're saying that global temperatures increase 1.1 to 1.3%, and we need to go through a huge restructuring of the U.S. financial system to make it harder for people to get financing, for them to get funding. We need to really start to dive into their books and really pay close attention, because we need to basically walk into a lot more change. Insurance companies are reassessing risk, and they're saying the actuaries need to do the same. And so you might say, well, what does this have to do with office buildings? What does this have to do with Budweiser and Target, these corporations? Well, they want office buildings to be vacant, because these office buildings can then be repurposed into affordable housing and housing stock to get everyone into these, dense locations. And so if they can keep people in a dense location and they don't need the cars, that's going to be better for the environment, so they would say, right? So you can see this consolidation of wealth, this massive change that is taking place. They say exactly how the financial crisis of the climate crisis will unfold is diverse, good choice of word, right? And multiple. As a capitalist economy, bankruptcies because high prices and interest rates, real estate crisis, the monetary crisis when the country goes underwater, debt crisis when the national production and tax revenues fall, or banks, companies, insurance companies have to be saved, right? They have to be saved. And now we're going to talk about Budweiser in a second. Stranded assets, when a government decides to bet on a failed and absurd project, we cannot help but point here to the stupidity. And they talk about an airport in Lisbon, like, oh, how stupid it would be to have another airport with global temperatures rising. So when we step into these problems, they're going to decide who's going to get saved, who's going to be able to, recover from this, right? And you look at one of these large corporations, he even says right here, he says this environmental social governance is becoming well-known term as a a form of impact investing, meaning major lenders such as BlackRock and Carlyle or think tanks like Ford Foundation seek to control societal outcomes using lending as leverage. And they basically say that they're going to look at your environmental and social governance score, right? So if you are one that's really, really diverse with your flags out front and you're selling a lot of rainbow merch and you're doing all this stuff, your ESG score is going to benefit. And so when things hit the fan, the likelihood of you getting financing is going to increase greatly. And why would these corporations go the other way when the consumer is going to have less money due to record high inflation, job layoffs? I mean, they're going to have a consumer that's going to have less to support their operations. They would probably be better off supporting, the ones that are actually going to fund their lease, that are going to pay for the utilities, that are going to pay for their employees, that are going to be able to give them the lines of credit, that are going to allow them to restructure their loans that they took out over the last couple of years. And that's what's going to happen right now. It says, well, not right now. As central banks raise interest rates in their balance sheet, the easy money party that started back in 2008 is ending after a decade of exorbitant growth. ESG is now in a steep decline, and this is directly tied to the policies of central banks and the Federal Reserve. In the past year or so, it's taken longer viable to dump money into mostly useless or woke projects, right? It seems the pure madness, but what we don't know is, let's see here, it's right. I believe that this is exactly what is intended. They say maybe international banks are limited in how they engage in ESG lending, but what about central banks? What about the drop in their facade of being politically neutral and come out full force in support of woke mind virus? What if central banks become the foundation of ESG? Wouldn't woke lending then become perpetual? Now you think about it, with these small regional banks that are stepping into a lot of problems, what are they going to do? They're going to start consolidating. And when they consolidate, they're going to start implementing these policies. And so how this is going to play out over the next couple of years, mark my words, large corporations that are with a really high ESG score are going to start to grow and expand and get lines of credit and benefit. And ones that aren't, that are viewed as not accepting are going to be likely bankrupt. They're likely going to be stepping into a lot more problems. It says, unlike the crash of 2008, though, the next stimulus event will not be fiat free for all. Instead, it will be a reset, a highly limited rescue plan with digital money being infused into select institutions. In other words, only a portion of the existing economy will be given a lifeboat. And guess who will qualify for a spot on that raft? That's right, the company is showing the most devotion to ESG. What do you think about this? To me, it seems obvious. It seems obvious this is what's happening. Because why would you, if you own Budweiser, why would you do what they've done? If you own Target, why would you do what they've done? You would not. No one would, right? But this makes the most sense if you just simply connect the dots as to what their timelines are, what they're doing. Even the Fed now, I think, is going to be live in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks actually, first week of July, so about 2.5 weeks. You start to connect it. That's what's likely going to happen. So, on this channel, I talk about personal finance, real estate, business, and money. I'm not trying to concern anyone or, get anyone scared or anything like that. But I am trying to see things clearly. Like I mentioned on this channel, one really strong quote that's always stuck with me is smart people see things for how they really are, and everyone else sees things for how they want them to be. I don't want it to be this way. I don't want to see it this way. But if the facts are the facts, I'm going to see it for what it is. I think we're going to see a huge industry unfold with carbon credits and with green energy and green funding for property upgrades, and all these different industries are going to start to unravel and open up. AI, all these things that we are not really taking that seriously right now. Give it the next 12, 24, 36 months, you're going to start seeing massive industries expand, and you're going to see industries that you thought would be around for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years just get absolutely decimated over the next couple of years as they start to move forward and start to cut funding from certain companies and certain businesses, and they start to really change everything. It's going to happen. I promise you. They're not putting this out here for nothing. They're not just, saying this for nothing. You look at these names. I mean, even, look, Janet Yellen, all these names. You look at Elizabeth Warren. She even said that it's corporate greed. It's these oil companies that are making things so bad. All these people are going to see to it that this does happen. Look, you even got the energy secretary right there. All these people are going to see to it that this is going to happen. John Kerry, all these people. So position yourself in the right industry. I personally think that one of the worst things that someone could do right now is sitting in record high credit card debt and making minimum payments. Really do. Because they're going to keep increasing interest rates and increasing interest rates. They want to see something break. Because when someone breaks, they can come in with a solution, right? If they continue to increase interest rates every time they do, you pay more interest on a credit card. You pay more interest on an adjustable loan. So if you can right now get out of adjustable rate debt, now's the time to do it. If you can position yourself to where you're going to be better off in the next 6 months, 12 months, maybe making short-term sacrifices now to be able to do that, it makes sense to do it. It makes sense to do it. The world's going to get harder, but for those that see things, how they really are, I think a lot of people are going to, be able to weather the storm and do really well. But I don't think it's going to be a situation in which we're going to just return back to 2017, 2018. What do you think? Drop below, hit the like button, subscribe here. And if you need help fixing your credit, we'd love to help you at greatcreditfast.com. That's greatcreditfast.com. And add me on Instagram. And catch you guys next video.